Hey, welcome everybody. This is XO Joe, aka Joe Hexotic, and this is Friday afternoon on the East Coast. It's noontime. Thank you for joining us for Experience, Strength, and Hope. I have a very special show for you today. I am back up in Connecticut. We are selling our house here, so this is going to be one of the last times I'll be streaming from the home that I started in. So it's a bittersweet time for my family and I. And I have a very special guest to celebrate today. From the West Coast of the United States, I have John Wick as my guest. So before we get into anything, I'm going to start with the Nagabo intro, give John about 1 minute to come back and get ready. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'll see you right after the Nagabo intro. Thank you.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you. I just want to say quickly hello to everybody and thank you for joining us. David Morales, my brother, how's it going? Hex Technician, Marcavelli, how you doing, brother? John Wallace is here. John's got some questions. E-Type, Nardo, Crypto J, Nardo and Crypto J, thank you for being here, fellas. So John Wick is somebody that's rather mysterious, right? In our community, he's made some appearances on Discourse Syndicate. He's a cutthroat, very knowledgeable of the financial world. I was lucky enough to meet John and hang out with him in Las Vegas. We had a great time. So really looking forward to this stream, right? So if you're new to Experience, Strength, and Hope, this is a show about overcoming obstacles, right? How did us Hexicans get to where we are today? What did we do to, what was growing up like? What was our family like? What was, going to school, our first jobs? Where did we fail along the way? What can we share with the rest of the community, right? So that's my hope here with Experience, Strength, and Hope. And again, I am Joe Hexotic, aka XO Joe. And I'd like to bring on, without further ado, my very special guest, John Wick. Welcome to the show, John. How's it going?
Hey, Joe.
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you too.
Good, man. Good to see you.
So we've been trying to make this happen for a while. I've been reaching out for a while. I think we just couldn't get on schedule for a little while. I may have even had to cancel during the last little bit of things got crazy for me back in like February. I stopped streaming so much. So I really appreciate you making this happen. I've been looking forward to this. So John, if anybody hasn't gotten a chance to know you, gotten a chance to see you on Discourse Syndicate yet, could you just tell us a little bit about your background and what life was like a little bit before Hex, so we can get to know you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm John Wick. If you guys want to reach me, I'm at Golden Yacht on Telegram. I'm not currently on Twitter. I just have a burner account, but I don't post anything on Twitter due to my job. So my background, I grew up in Hong Kong and loved it there. It's a great time when I was a kid, and then I moved to the States when I was about almost 10 years old. Been in California ever since and love it here in SoCal. Awesome. And I went to college at UC Santa Barbara, so not too far from where I grew up, and that was a great experience. You're living right on the beach, beautiful women, beautiful weather, great school. You can bike everywhere, walk everywhere. All your friends are in like a very small radius, so that was a really good experience. And then since then, I moved back home and in San Diego, and I've been here ever since. And since then, I've been working in the financial field. After college, I went right into entrepreneurship. I run a private financial planning firm that I'm like the sole owner of, and I own all my clients. So I help people plan for retirement, kids' college education, retirement plans such as 401ks. I help businesses, small businesses, set up stuff like health insurance and all that stuff too. So kind of a jack of all trades. I even do some trust stuff, living trusts, life insurance, all that stuff. So I try to be a jack of all trades, and in the process, I've had to learn a lot. I've been in the business about a decade now. So I've learned a lot, and my crypto journey started in about 2016. So I was lucky to get into Ethereum pretty early, and then a few years later, I found Hex and Richard Hart, and then I studied everything that Richard had to say, and was in part of the planning process, the Telegram groups before Hex was even launched, and just been following the progress ever since. And watch every Richard Hart video. Before this, I was catching up on the latest Richard video, which was excellent, both of the 11-minute one and the long one. So yeah, I've just been a diehard Hexagon since day one, and my mission and goal is just to help raise the educational awareness and the knowledge of the Hexagon community when in regards to either crypto in general or Hex specifically, the contract. So that's what I like to do, and it was fun meeting you in Vegas and all the other cutthroats and community members there. Because, for example, the guy BMA in the chat, he came up to me and mentioned like I gave him more confidence to invest more into Hex, early on when things were looking a little sketchy, right? And there's a lot of FUD. So it was just a great experience being in Vegas and talking to real people, not just Telegram handles and seeing you and other like RG3 and Crypto Coffee and all those guys. That was really a pleasure for me. So hope to see you guys in the future too.
Yeah, that was cool, John. I remember seeing you for my first time on Discourse Syndicate too. I don't think that our community was lacking any professionalism at the time. I didn't have that feeling, but then when you came on screen and what you spoke about, it did add another dimension that I hadn't seen before. So I really appreciated when you came on, and it was kind of cool. It was like you seemed to be one of the first people that I saw have like their own real dedicated episode, right, of Discourse Syndicate, where like you were the featured guest. It was just you and RG, and like I hadn't seen a lot of that. And I liked that particular format, of course. So when I, really gravitated towards those hour-long shows that you did with RG, a couple hours long, I got so much information from you. I just had a question. I asked the same question to Markable. People in the community are looking for people with your skill set. Can we hire you, or is that not a possibility for assistance?
So in my industry, since I'm registered with, I'm an investment advisor as well as a Series 7, just like broker, some kind of hybrid. So in that structure, we're not allowed to recommend any unregulated assets, and cryptocurrency falls under that. Even though the last few weeks, I've been getting blasted emails from CoinDesk trying to say like advisors need to start looking at putting only Bitcoin into their portfolios to, balance some of the volatility, increase returns and all that. So it's weird because like some people are shilling me Bitcoin, from the advisor side as if I was a noob, but then we're not allowed to sell it directly to clients in any sort of type of legitimate structure unless someone was asking me this too, unless I was to establish a brand new fund where I was the general partner and then everyone else that was entering into the pool was a limited partner and they were like accredited investors. So everyone has to have $1 million net worth or have like 250, 300K a year in income. So it's just, I looked into that a little bit, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze there as far as like funding it, administration, legal, whereas people can just do it by themselves. And obviously there's a learning process, and hopefully there will be some sort of grayscale type product for Hex eventually. But at this current state, no, it's not really feasible for me personally. I'm sure some people are looking into it, like Conrad Zen, who I look up to in this community.
Okay.
Because he was into Bitcoin early, and he was always, evangelizing Hex too when no one else was talking about it. And he comes from my background too, similar. So he has a fund. If you go to zwicapital.com, he has like an index fund, and I think it's for accredited investors only, but it's for the US and Europe. So if you want some like passive exposure to crypto, and I think 50% of the portfolio is Hex, you could look at that route if that was something that was interested to you.
Wow, very cool. Thank you, John. I do have a lot of questions related to that. We'll get to some later.
Okay.
As far as like the theme of the show, I'd love to talk to you just about Hex and just about Pulse, right? But I don't know a lot about the person John Wick. I haven't heard a lot of stories about you and your family or you and your friends. So anything that you'd be willing to share with us would be great. If you could take us through just a little bit of your life, and we could discuss anything. If there's any points of impact along the way that you think would be worth mentioning to the community. This show works best, right? This stream is best when it doesn't really matter if it's addiction, if it's loss of family, if it's struggle through college, anything that was unique that you had to overcome some sort of difficulty, some sort of pain, maybe a failure, and then just turn that around. And what did you learn from that? So if we can kind of share stories with the community, I think that's really a successful stream for me. So pretty loose as far as what we could discuss. But if you want to take us through the life of John Wick, I always like to say as far back as you'd like to go, and take us as deep as you're willing to take us. So,
okay, awesome, yeah. So I gave you
John,
general background.
Real quick before we get going, Scotty does know throughout the $499 super chat. That's amazing, Scotty. Couldn't have done it for a better man, John Wick. Thank you so much. I know you guys are like peanut butter jelly, right? Like
we're butt buddies, yeah.
Complimentary.
Yeah, we've been on some of this Discourse Syndicate streams. If anyone hasn't seen those together, so we talked about the Pulse sacrifice and the OA sacrificing. So I feel justified that the OA did sacrifice. But yeah, we can get back to it. And if you have any questions or anything strikes your fancy, please stop me. But yeah, so just a little bit of background. I did give you guys a little bit of just insights as far as like my professional and educational experience. So starting out in my career, I was about 22 years old, and in my field, the average advisor, if you could guess, what do you think the average advisor is in the U.S. age-wise? Male, female, doesn't matter.
I'd say
whole
50,
country.
50. I would imagine 45 to 50.
65.
Okay, wow.
So the average person in my field is basically entering average retirement age, almost Social Security age. So when I first started out, when I would meet people, and you meet like your friends and family first, right? Because those people trust you and they know you. But after that, after you start branching out to people you don't know and referrals and stuff like that, you get a lot of pushback, right? Because the way I look very young. I look like some people think I'm 18 still. Some people think I'm 20. Some people think I'm 35. So there's like a wide range. But they're like, you're so young. You look so young. Why am I going to trust someone who's younger than me with all this money? And like, do you have any experience? And I'm like, well, when you're starting out in a business, you don't have experience and you can't really fall back on that. So it's just like they had to kind of take a leap of faith in me. So I do appreciate everyone that took that risk on me. It's just starting out and betting on me improving and becoming better and more knowledgeable. But as I don't know if do you know Seth Godin? He's an author.
I've read a couple of his books. What did he write?
Okay. He wrote Purple Cow. He wrote The Dip.
Economics in the word? Is the word economics in it?
He's got a lot of like self-help. Yeah, that was I think that was someone else, but he's in that similar genre.
Yeah, I used to have a couple books by him.
Yeah, he wrote this book called The Dip, it really struck me. I read it later after I went through The Dip, but he describes in business and entrepreneurship that you have, at least for me, I had a very good start, right? Because I knew people with money and I had very good success early on, and I knew I had good support system and mentorship. But then he says in every business, right, the average business lasts about 2.5, 3 years, and then until it usually fails. And 95% of startups fail, depending on what data you're looking at. So I went through that dip myself in about 2014. Whereas you have your initial wave of people and people that trust you, but then you reach these people that are outside of your influence. They don't know your background. They don't know your history. They don't know what you've been through or any of your life experiences. And then it was a point in time, I think, it was like in about the middle of 2014 where I had a very like large client, I can't disclose too much, but multi-million dollar houses, nice cars, no family, lots of millions of dollars in the bank. And I was just like already counting this account as because I had a couple meetings with her, and it was like I was already counting this. I was basically spending this money ahead of time. I was like, all right, this is a done deal. This is going to set me off for the year, right? This is basically going to make my entire year. That's kind of how some of the business works, right? It's like you just basically catch what you eat what you catch in this business. It's entirely commission. So that was another thing. Like people thought I was crazy because I was going entirely commission business out of college. But luckily I had a support system too. But anyways, I was spending the money as if it was already done deal. I was like, I did basically in my mind, I was like, this is done. We're going to do all these things. She's going to be a lifetime client, you know, and this is going to set me up because her network, obviously, if you're rich usually and you live in nice areas, usually you know people, right? So I was like already counting those referrals. She's like, I'm going to tell my friends. I was like, boom, this is going to be amazing. It's going to set me off. And then a few months later, I don't have to bore you with the details. It falls through. And I'm just like devastated. I'm like, wow, can't believe. You know, there's some things in life where you have 100% certainty in your mind that it's going to happen, right? But life, there is no certainty in nature or in life, right? There's probably everyone in the room or everyone watching probably has something in their life they thought they were certain of at the time, only to be taken away in an instant. It could be health, finances, business, relationships, right? So there is no certainty in nature or in life necessarily, right? There's no certainty that animals are going to survive the next day, right? But they live it day to day. So I, in my mind, had this certainty it was going to be done. It was taken away, and it kind of just like it shakes you to your core. So in addition to that, my body was pretty unhealthy. I was getting overweight. I think I was pushing like 180 pounds, you know, and I'm not, you met me in person. I'm not the tallest guy. So like 180 pounds of my frame isn't great. I was still single and looking for, you know, partners constantly failing. I was having alcohol with basically every meal, just like a beer or two. And that I think contributed to it. I always had a good family support, so I can always thank them. And I would always lean on that. But I was just at a point where in my life where I had very high ambitions for my life, and especially financially. But the reality of the world wasn't matching up to my expectations. Right. And once you have expectations not meeting reality, that's where you have stress. That's where you have discord and disharmony. So that's where I remember I was sitting on the couch shortly after that deal fell through. And I was like, wow, is this really where my life is headed? Is this like I had two roommates in a small apartment. And I was like, is this really where my life is headed and where I want it and where I see it going? And the clear answer was no. Right. So I had to decide not in that moment, but I had to make a decision that this was unacceptable. Like sometimes in life, you have to raise your standards. And then when you raise your standards, you can see who you are and you can see the person you can become through challenge and through hardship. So I've seen some of your shows and I know you like talking through that. So if you have anything you want to add to that or ask any questions, feel free.
Yeah, no, I think it's very timely, John. I've been feeling that myself lately. You know, it's getting complacent. You know, sometimes having things not work out as you see them. You could look at them as failures. You know, and I'm really loving what you're saying because that is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to raise my own bar up right now. You know, and challenge myself. So I'm with you.
Yeah. And a lot of like personal development is about raising your standards in this various areas of your life. Right. So like for me, I started the easiest. And since I was like, I had some credit card debt too, you know, because I told you I was spending the money ahead of time. I was like, thinking about what I was going to buy, thought about like all these things I was going to be able to do. Right. And then that's just taken away. Then you have to kind of start from zero. But the easiest and the cheapest way to turn my life around was through the physical, the health side. Right. Because it's free technically. Right. And if you eat less, it's cheaper. If you eat health, if you don't drink, it's cheaper.
Drink
so I was
water,
like, that's the first thing I can do is like I can start cultivating my diet and the information diet too. But yeah, I started with the health. So I started getting up early, working out first thing in the morning, reading books, meditating, doing more of a ketogenic diet in the mornings at least, and doing some intermittent fasting. And that helped, you know, me build momentum into your life. So once you start seeing easy early wins there, then things can start to get better. You know, you can start reading like inspirational spiritual books. You can start, having better relationships with your friends and family that way. But that was for me the core of my benefit. And one of the things that struck me and still sticks with me today is I was looking at like Have you heard of Quora.com? Quora.
Yeah.
It's a question and answer website. So like
Yeah.
you can ask questions like, what is the meaning of life? You can ask like, what should I do if my parents don't like my spouse? Like, there's all these like open-ended questions and then it's like a forum where people respond. So one of the things after I, figured out I got to figure out my health situation, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Quora and I'm going to look at all these threads based on like older people and say, what are their biggest regrets in life? Like looking back, like, so 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 7-year-olds, what was their biggest regret they didn't do in their 20s and 30s? Because at the time I was in my mid 20s, I was like, okay, well, I can get some insights and maybe I can reverse engineer this and look at what people regret that they didn't do when they're young. And then I can institute those strategies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've read like all those things and I was just constantly in a search for knowledge. And the themes that kept coming up with people as far as regretting things in their life, in their past life, was health, relationships, and then finances, right? So those are like obviously main things for most people, but the health kept coming up, right? They're like, I wish I did better habits when I was younger, so I don't have these health issues now. I wish I was smarter with the money so that I would have more financial abundance later on and be able to retire and live a comfortable life. And then I wish I'd done better with my relationships. Yeah. And then there's some others, like I wish I'd bet on myself more. I wish I'd, had the courage to live up to what I wanted, not what society or other people wanted. So I think that strikes a chord with a lot of people, right? Because a lot of the times we're taught what to do through our authority figures in our lives, parents, teachers, university, professors. But in the end, you have to live with your own decisions. You have to live with your life. And I really took that to home. And so that kind of reinforced my beliefs in working on my health and doing everything I can now, building those habits now so I could have decades in the future of good health. And then Richard Branson had a quote that said, if you're an entrepreneur, the best thing you can do is get your body into peak physical condition, right? And when Richard Branson said that really just like struck me very strongly too, because it just like it kind of solidified my belief that I was on the right path and that this was the better way to live life. And then as a result, everything got better over time, kind of through osmosis. As your physical health gets better, you become a more positive person, you treat people better, you have less aches and pains. And like when the body is in pain, it's easier to hurt other people, right?
That's for
it's
sure.
Easier to act out and lash out in stress because you have discord inside you, right? So it's just like hurt people. So if you are able to heal that inner hurt and that inner stress and inner anxiety, then you are able to then treat people better and be a better beacon of hope for other people and strength, hopefully. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, I agree. Something that I know I struggle with as well is getting the energy to do things like this, to work on myself spiritually or physically. And I know from experience, and I know from others that have helped me, that none of us really have the energy to do these things, right? Like out the gate, like you sort of have to just make the commitment mentally and then realize that you following through with it, you're going to create more time. You're going to create more energy. And so, I see some people in the chat, Crypto Gym Rats here. How's it going, brother? Hex Live. Thank you for joining us. And I have these discussions with Hex Live about taking care of ourselves and, capitalizing on the moment, on the opportunity. And especially now, John, I mean, we've been in Hex. I can speak for, I think you and I both, Hex Live, over a year now, made some really good gains. So, what are we going to focus on? Finances are pretty much taken care of. I mean, we could certainly keep an eye to that area, but, it's something I don't like to talk about a lot is the getting myself physically healthy, right? Because that requires real work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't fake
Discipline.
I don't get an airdrop. I can't join somebody else's team.
Exactly.
It's all on you, so I didn't know that about you, John. What do you do to incorporate exercise in your life at this stage? How do you keep healthy on a daily basis?
So back in that 2014 point, I knew going back, like that was like one of the things. And then I started listening to podcasts. So that was like my easiest thing, right? Because podcasts are free now, right? Information is abundant. discipline and work, putting in the work is scarce, right? People that put in the work is scarce. So I started doing podcasts. That was like the easiest thing because it's free. It's on your phone, and I could listen to them while I'm working out in the morning. So then I was like, okay, what do I need to put in my body? What do I need? And most of health is actually removing the bad things. Like I would say 80% of it is removing bad, and then you slowly you substitute good for those bad. All right. So I started, I told you, I started working out in the morning. I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to music. I would meditate. I would read books, all on health. And then I started instituting habits, right? So like your habits shape you, not the other way around, in my opinion. I think your habits shape your life. It just takes a little bit of a lag time for that to appear in the real world, in the physical world. So Crypto Gym Rat knows. I've seen some of his photos. He's jacked as hell, right? And everything in health is, in my mind, everything in health, there's genetic components, but everything in health is earned. So I respect people when I see their physical bodies more than financially most of the time, because I'm like, wow, this guy's really dedicated to his craft and has the discipline to do it every single day or every single week, right? But back to the habits. So I started going to acupuncture regularly.
Wow.
I actually currently go once a week. So people are like, that's ridiculous. Like that's so much money you're spending. But to me, investing in my health is the most important investment I could ever make. So there's one there, the podcasts, books, acupuncture. I get regular massages now too. And this is what I started doing this too back then.
What's the length of an acupuncture session, and what's it like? What do you do when you're in there?
So my sessions are roughly 2 hours per. So it's a long session, but I start face up, and my acupuncturist, she'll like feel my pulse, and then through that, which is crazy through traditional Chinese medicine, but after feeling my pulse, she can tell which of my organs have low qi or aren't fully energized, right? Because the Chinese medicine believes that everything's qi, everything's energy. So as long as you get your channels and the energy channels flowing correctly, everything should work in harmony.
Okay.
So I do face up, she do my pulse, and then she put needles on certain areas of my body, all over my face, legs, torso, ankles, ears, even like forehead, all over the body.
Are they always symmetrical? The pattern's always symmetrical? It's
based on the pulse. Okay. Based on the pulse and then based on my history. So for me, like I have a little bit of a lung deficiency. So she'll always do like the lung points or the stomach, right? So it's like, it's different. Depends on what you have going on. But I'll do that for like, I think 45 minutes face up. And it's very deep relaxation. It feels like deep meditation. And then I'll flip over and she'll do needles on the backside, the neck, shoulders, whatever you have ailments too. It helps with sore muscles. And then after that, for 45 minutes, then she'll do like 30 minutes of the cupping with the glass cups where like it's a suction.
Yeah.
It's like a fire and it suctions on your back. So you just have those huge cups on your back and legs. And that just helps with a lot of like the muscle tension. And you should try it. Yeah, check it out. It's really good. And sometimes it's covered on insurance too, your health insurance. So if you have a good plan, sometimes it'll be covered. So if you have a certain amount of visits every year, you can go. And I've seen great benefits there. Yeah. So,
John, I've been a bad husband. I'll be honest, right? Because my wife, she loves the chiropractor. Because I grew up not needing a chiropractor. My wife she showed horses. She's a horse trainer. She teaches other people how to ride horses, and she rides them, does very well. And she competed in the World Games and as a manager of one of the teams of Venezuela, of Team Venezuela. So they won the World Games. My wife was there. She's riding at a high level, and what had happened was one of the horses, gigantic horses, fell on her and hurt her very badly. And to me, because I've never experienced something like that, I am from the world of like chiropractors, haven't done anything for me. It's kind of a scam. Massages, kind of a scam. Acupuncture, kind of a scam. I lump them all together. But I really love my wife, and I appreciate where she's coming from. And she tells me I'm just flat out wrong, and here you are, and you go to an acupuncturist, and you very much enjoy it. So I guess I got to just take a second here and realize that I don't know everything, and cut some other people some slack. And I'd love to try an acupuncturist. I'm curious as to, is your run-of-the-mill acupuncturist worth checking out, or do you have to really find like the right person?
The latter. Yeah.
Okay.
So you really have to find someone you trust that knows their stuff, And funny that you mentioned chiro. That was my next one habit, is I see a chiropractor too once a month. I do sauna, infrared and oven and steam.
Wow.
Meditation is huge. That's one of the biggest like personal development things I've ever found, helping with manifestation, just peace, well-being, feeling of serenity, like just those things to me are invaluable. And when I can get my body into that state, it's never like a waste of time, right? A lot of people think that like meditation, all this health self-care stuff is a waste of time. But to me, when I'm in that zone, I'm in that state of mind and energy field, I feel very whole and I feel very centered and nothing can bother you. It's crazy. It's like after an acupuncture session, nothing can bother me. Like I could lose thousands of dollars and I would still be fine. It's a crazy, and that's from going consistently, right? It's not just like the body is a system, and it's all like you heal the system slowly, but once you heal the system, everything can work by itself. So that's like kind of the thesis of acupuncture is like the body has all the tools it needs to heal itself naturally. But usually the things that we do, our habits, get in the way of that natural healing process. So if you have tight muscles in the back all over, then the blood flow can't really go through everywhere. Then the blood usually heals the muscles and all that. Right. And then you have the lymph node in the body too. So if you do sauna, it's been proven to enhance the lymph activation, which helps clear out all the toxicity out of your body. So there's all these things that I've slowly had to implement over time, and I've found that work for me. And it doesn't mean that it works for everyone. And this is not a prescription for everyone, but find things that work for you, that make you happy, that improve your life. And then hopefully that will snowball into some building better habits and positive momentum. Because I found that in this game, a lot of it's about positive momentum. When you feel good, then you want to do things that are going to make you feel good, continue to feel good.
Right.
And I'm not perfect by any means, but this is a lifelong process that I'm trying to get better at, trying to improve. And I found that your why is usually the most important motivator and discipline tool. So for me, my why of why I want to be physically healthy is, I'll just give you a couple. One is I want to be around for my kids and my grandkids for as long as possible, so I can support them, help them, see them grow, and build that legacy. And then for me, that's a huge, like when I think about like getting up in the morning, I need to work out. Like I think about that in the back of my mind. That's an easy thing for me to get out and go, right? Because I want to be there. And that's very important to me, right? So if you look at your values around a certain area of your life and you see why you want to get those goals or that vision, usually it comes back to the why, right? Why are you doing it? And if it's the why is important enough, you'll do anything, right? Human beings are almost limitless, right? In their potential and what they can accomplish, as we've seen in the Olympics, as we've seen in all these like business, health. Women can lift cars if their baby's stuck under it, right? That just shows you the limitless power of the human intention and the mind if it is focused in a certain area that's meaningful to them. So yeah, I just wanted to add that because that's one of the things I'm passionate about is the health field.
I didn't realize that this Michael J. Hexon wrote, really love the topic, Joe and John. Self-care is self-love. Being able to love yourself first makes you truly able to love others after. There's no you without you. I didn't realize self-care, that this was actually the topic essentially of the show that we're talking about right now. And that's a very important topic for me in recovery. This is sort of full spectrum when we have somebody like John here with somebody like me together. Not too long ago, about a year and a half ago, my self-care goals consisted of waking up, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, eating, square meals, getting a little bit of exercise, right? Like I used to go sit down in a behavioral group class and we would share strategies on just how to get out of depression, right? How to get out of bed. And John, you've taken it to the level that we all aspire to be. I don't know exactly, but my impression of you, your skin, your eyes, you're very healthy, right? And so and you have that level of attention in person. You're really there, right? So like your mind is healthy, you're physically healthy, and I just thought that was a cool something cool to point out, is that self-care really is important. And it doesn't matter if, today is your first day getting sober, or, you've been doing this for a few 24 hours at a time and you got everything going right for you. John, you ever experience those what are they called? The dunk tank, gravity tanks, the water.
Yeah, the float tanks. Yeah,
Float
I've
tanks.
tried to experiment with everything. Cryotherapy, the float tanks. Those are pretty cool. But the water's really salty, right?
Okay.
That's how you float.
Yeah.
So you can't don't get in your eyes if you do
Okay.
it. You know, it'll
Okay.
burn like hell. Or if you have like open wounds, just burn like hell because it's just salty water. But yeah, it's pretty good for like, you know, just sensory deprivation. That's again, it's for people that have like their mind is too active, right? Most people in America, their mind is too active. They're anxious. They're not like centered. They're very, you know, all over the place, jittery. But yeah, I think that's a great point you said about the self-love. Like I used to have those same like negative beliefs about like massage, chiro, acupuncture too. But then I realized like taking care of myself is an act of self-love. And the more I love myself, the more I'm going to, again, treat people better, treat myself better, and just live life on a more fulfilling level, right? Like, because like we're only here for a short amount of time. But, you know, for me, my measurement of success is not money. It's about health. It's about relationships, and it's about fulfillment and well-being and feeling like I'm fulfilling my potential, right? And at some level, I'm sure some people can all resonate with that, because we're not just here to make as much money as possible and then exit the game, right? Because you can't take it with you. You can't take the money with you. So there has to be something greater, right? And I think that the Hex community, now that we're all have our financial lives mostly fixed and solved, like you mentioned earlier, now we can focus on some of the more self-actualization things, like the wellness and the relationships and self-actualization, self-esteem, self-love, because those things are so important and so key to a fulfilling life, which is what everyone's after, like happiness, right? And happiness means different things to everyone. But I think there's a lot of things that all align as far as how to make a happy life. I think we're all made of the same stuff in general. So obviously differences, but I think we're all made of the same stuff. We all want the same things, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like putting things in perspective. And I've always tried to have that long-term perspective and big picture perspective. So yeah, I just want to make sure that like taking care of yourself is not a bad thing. Getting massages is not a taboo or just a luxury. To me, it's a necessity. It's part of my lifestyle. It's part of my habits. And then I get a lot of joy from that. I think it's something I look forward to every week. So it brings me joy, not only in the moment while I'm getting a massage, but if you feel great after, and then you're looking forward to it ahead of time too.
So I think there's a distinction that you know, I know there's been a couple jokes in the chat. There's different places you can go to get a massage, right? Like you can go to get a massage at almost anywhere in the United States. There's a lot of different places. I would imagine just like the chiropractor, just like the acupuncturist, in a sense, you get what you pay for, and not every place is the same. So, John, if you're on vacation, you know, going away for a couple of weeks, do you seek out a licensed medical, an LMT, licensed massage therapist?
No, I mean, like if I go to a hotel or stay somewhere, I'll try to just go there. Those are usually solid.
Okay.
But if I can't, then it's not the end of the world either, right? Because I've had them, you know, for so long a time. My body is more healthy now. But if not, then
a bad one, a good one, John. You know, like even a worse massage you get, still a good one.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're all pretty solid. Like you just gotta, you know, find someone that knows what they're doing. But yeah, I don't worry about that too much. But I do like the Thai ones because they like step on your back and it's more like deep tissue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It's harder to mess up, I think, too.
Yeah.
Walking on someone's back. It just feels good. Yeah.
Cool.
So we can move on from that point, but I just wanted to, talk about self-love, self-care a little bit, because it's in America, at least, so many people they laugh at me when I say like how often I go, or they just seem like it's like, that's ridiculous. You're spending so much money on this. Like, to me, it's important. You know, for you, it might be cars. It might be, you know, taking your family out to dinner. Or whatever it may be. But for me, that's important. And that's helped me take, you know, the next level and get my life to where I want it to be and on the trajectory of where I want it to be. That was like the fundamental shift.
I like seeing what everybody in our community is really passionate about, what they do spend their money and time on, and then think like, well, that's kind of like the baseline. Like, John, you inspire me to do these things. I probably won't do them as frequent and spend as much money on them, but like, I'd like to explore it. You know, I'd like to go see an acupuncturist. Who doesn't love a massage? I certainly want to cut my wife some slack and, you know, make her an appointment for the chiropractor. You know, it's funny. You know, last night, I don't know what it is about sudden wealth syndrome, right? I guess it is. It's I'm taking profits for the first time, right? I've been in for a year. Last week just sold. I have a schedule that I'm selling on. Very little bit of interest at a time. But that very little bit of interest equates to a lot of money for us. I felt kind of dirty at first, like I didn't want to. My wife had, I made a commitment to my wife. I said, this is what we were going to do. This is the plan. This is how we're going to exit. I had no idea we'd be here already. So I feel sort of like, wow, we're already at a quarter. Like maybe we shouldn't be jumping into this, even though that was our plan. Maybe we could hold back more. But I just wanted to share, like, in just a week, right, of me paying down some of my bills. Like I didn't want to sell my Hex to pay off my credit card debt that I have basically at 0% because I've transferred from one card to another. So I held it over here, right, in limbo. I hold that debt at 5%. It cost me 5%, 4% to move it, maybe 3%. But I hold it here for a year. And in my mind, I'm not going to sell any Hex because I don't want to pay down that debt that, is nothing percentage-wise when I could be making all this money over here if I just reinvest it. Yeah. But there's something about peace of mind, right? Like I didn't take out $1 million. I didn't take anything near that. But I have sort of $1 million peace of mind now. With the few bills that I've paid off. And it's like, I like this, this feeling of having this system work, right? Of building a ladder, sticking through with a commitment. And then now I'm going to reap the benefits of it. Right. And so I guess what I'm struggling with lately, like, and I feel kind of funny even saying it on stream, but maybe I'm not alone, right? Like, I can't stop looking at Rolex watches, and my buddy Hex Live is gonna laugh. Like I'm making fun of him a month ago. Like we're not Rolex guys. We don't like Rolexes, right? But now all of a sudden, like Rolexes piqued my interest. Thinking about like just a bunch of stupid things, and I don't know if it's like the wheels are turning. I'm wasting my time. Thank God Scotty threw the $500 super chat today because
that could go down to deposit.
That could make it happen, but. I guess my question is, John, are you struggling with anything like that? Like, are you looking at things that you're like, what am I doing spending my time looking at this thing? You know what I mean? Like, are you shopping?
Yeah,
John?
A little bit. Yeah, definitely increased my budget for the shopping lately. But for the most part, like, there's some like large purchases I want to make eventually. But like right now, it's just so bullish on the fork. It seems. It's tough to sell that much or percentage wise,
Right.
But you get so much dollar value back for even the small amount you sell. It's crazy. But for what I would say as far as spending money goes is like the sudden wealth syndrome is, yes, it's totally normal to feel weird and feel like you're cheating the system and you're like taking levels up on people that have worked their entire lives. It is kind of a mind fuck in a way. And you just have to check yourself, try to stay humble. But for the most part, what I would say as far as spending money goes is, if you spend money on yourself, you'll feel good, right? You'll feel good for a little bit, but then there's the hedonic treadmill, right? And then you need something better to just feel just as good as you were. Instead, if you were to spend a large sum of money or even a mid-sized, small amount of money on someone else, I guarantee you'll feel way better for longer, right? Definitely. That's just how the human condition works, right? We're designed to give. We're designed to love other people. And I think that if you do that with your financial power, your financial energy, and you're able to increase someone else's standard of living with some of the gains, even though it might not be the optimal time to sell. But if you're going to increase someone you love's standard of living and quality of life, I think that has invaluable effects and second order effects that it's hard to quantify, right? So it could be for you, it could be for your wife, you could buy something for your wife or your kids, and they would just be like, wow, Dad, like that's amazing. I can't believe you did this for me. Like, and it probably wouldn't even be possible a few years ago, right? So like doing that might even give you more benefits, regardless of money, than just spending something on yourself, right? That's what I found.
Yeah, it's funny. What did you call it? The treadmill?
Hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill.
Google it.
It's never enough, right? Whatever you get.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, you're set. Yeah, you increase your lifestyle, and it's great, right? All of a sudden, you're like, you got a new house, new car, and everything's amazing. But then you kind of just slowly over time, it just slowly depreciates. Your happiness levels, and then you need something else, bigger, better, new car, new house, to just get to that feeling. You're chasing that feeling, when ultimately, like, wealth is just a feeling of abundance. in your mind, right? There's people that are very poor in American standards that feel very wealthy in other countries, and there's people in America that are billionaires that feel very poor, right? So it's not like a set number. It's just in your mind, and your perception of wealth it's all in your mind, right? So just wanted to point that out too, is like you can be wealthy in relationships, love, happiness, friends, family, and very poor, and then the inverse too. So it's not all about money, right? It's about like, you know, lifestyle and caring for the people that you love, hopefully.
Yeah, so it's a slippery slope. I thank you for that, John. I really connect with what you're saying. I imagine Richard putting on his, you know, $600,000 new watch and like kind of being like, damn, I wish I could have got the $2.5 million, you know, whatever. And so I guess it's a slippery slope. I was really kind of proud of myself. I felt good. I felt like I made it. Like I became responsible because I stopped caring about those things for so long. You know, now we're coming into some money. We're coming back to Connecticut to sell our house. The market's really good. Made a lot of profit. Gonna sell some furniture. We sold a little Hex. You know, it's like people are talking about buying a present for yourself. Like don't go through all this. Don't take all the gains. Don't pay. You know, don't do everything you've done and not celebrate for yourself. Right. So like part of me, the selfish part, the egotistical part, is spending time, you know, shopping on the internet when I could have been spending time with my girls last night and my wife, you know, and I'm happy to reconcile this with you on stream because I don't want to go down the path of buying that Rolex. At the same time, like I don't know what's going on inside me because it's like this little monster, this like materialism monster is like starting to build. And I was laughing. Dan Emmons wrote in here, it's a psyop. Don't fall for it. I thought it was. You know, I think Richard's very smart, obviously, but I'm always trying to think like what's the not plain text message that Richard's giving us by all these watches. What is he trying to tell us, right? And at first I thought it was exactly that. He's like, first of all, hexagons are a lot of us are going to waste money. So do we go waste money on the second best brand, the third best brand, or do we buy actually Louis Vuitton, Rolex, Ferrari, Lamborghini, right? And that way it has some resale value. So I was thinking maybe he's doing that. But I'm hoping that there's some genius mechanism at work that one day he's just going to sit back and say like, what did, you know, and that's why I don't want to fall for this trap is, you know, I could, if I bought one Rolex this year, right? I bet I could buy 10 of them next year. Right.
With the same amount.
Gains. Yeah.
Right. The same amount of capital. Yeah. I mean, for me, I value experiences over things. Right. So like I would much rather, just me personally, not trying to tell anyone what to do, but me personally, I would rather pay for like a vacation for me and my family or friends or loved ones over buying a Rolex. That's just me. Right. And it's like people have to decide for themselves, like what is important to you. What do you value in life? You know, if it's family, if it's friends, then yeah, that's like one of my highest values. So I like to spend money on that. Physical health, I'll spend any amount of money on my physical health, you know, because that's one of my highest values in life. So now that money is not one of the highest values, I'm not chasing it, right? And it's abundant, then I think it's just like, it's a good exercise to just sit down, like, what are the things in life that make me happy the most? Like, if I look back in my life, what are the things that I've done or things that I've experienced that made me the happiest? And then what are the things on the opposite side that I want to stop doing that don't bring me any happiness, actually bring me pain and agony? And then you start doing less of those things, and you start doing more of the things that make you happy. And as a result, it's a huge net positive, right? If you just reduce the things you don't like doing and doing more of the things you like doing. That's how I kind of got around to the physical health stuff. It was like, all right, I'm going to throw all this money at, you know, cryotherapy, sauna, chiropractor, acupuncture, massage, because those things will obviously make me feel good in the moment, but also fuel my next growth, fuel my growth moving forward, because I'm going to be even healthier. I'm going to be feeling even better. I'm going to have so much energy for the things that may not even be here yet, but I'm going to have the energy to do it if it comes up. Right. So John, it's kind of like a preemptive strike. You
make an actual physical list, or you
write it down.
Sit down and make one. Yeah.
It's a great exercise for people to do.
Yeah.
If they have trouble with like habits and what they, you know, structuring their like lifestyle design and stuff like that, like I think it's a very powerful thing. Is you do a stop doing list for things that you don't like doing, or like, like driving to work for an hour, right? So if you're driving for work for an hour every day, how can you stop doing that? Can you move closer? Can you, right? That's just one example. And then on the things you like doing, it could be trips with your family, just all-inclusive trips with your family. And then you could do more of that, right? And then as a result, you're doing things that make you more happy more often. And you're doing things that make you less happy less often. And then it's a both double net positive. And as a byproduct, as a baseline, I think you'll be a happier person.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So John, what's it been like in the past 6 months for you and Hex with PulseChain being announced, the sacrifice coming? You said you were involved in the planning stages of Hex. Did you get involved in the planning stages of Pulse as well? And has it been a major part of your life the past few months?
I would definitely say that I've taken less of an interest in Pulse than Hex, just because Hex is still here and still printing interest every day, and it's had ridiculous gains. And back then, it was just like a cool idea, and it was fun to like talk with Richard and the other community members about like game theory and stuff. Pulse has that too, on even like times 1,000, but it's tough for me to speculate, and like everything's so abstract. So I am involved in some of like the Pulse VIP chats and the planning chats as far as the game theory for some of the liquidity mining and stuff. But like, I haven't added anything of value, let's say, to the Pulse planning. I've just asked some questions, got some insights. I understand it better now than I did. But I definitely sacrificed, and I'm definitely going to participate in Pulse. But for me, I'm still focused on Hex and the Hex chats, and trying to get a good entries and just monitoring the development, right? Because before Big Payday, we didn't know what it was going to be like in 2021, right? There was no hint of PulseChain. There was no hint of any developments or work being done.
Yeah.
So now that Pulse is around and that there's going to be this snapshot and this fork, like that has only increased my interest in Hex, and I'm addicted to the telegrams and just following in the communities and watching the streams. Even if I have like nothing to do, I'm just addicted to watching some of the streams and keeping up to date on what everyone's doing and the airdrop potentials and all that. So it's just, for me, it's just fun, intrinsically fun to follow Hex now. And I think that might be the same case when Pulse is actually launched. But right now, I'm not really spending much time in the Pulse chats or talking too much about it.
John, do you think there's an innate characteristic of Hex to increase the positivity in our lives, mentally, spiritually, physically, Absolutely. Beyond just money? Do you think that was designed in Hex at all? Do you think that that's just a side effect, or what's your take on that? Is especially I know Richard said like to start, it was a surprise to him. So I can't imagine it was built in. So as a side effect, we see this monetary mechanism create this existence in which we thrive in all these other aspects of our life. It's wild. And you coming from the financial world, what does something like that mean to you?
Yeah, so humans are very incentive-based creatures, right? So we respond to incentives, and the incentives in Hex are to stake, and then as a result of that, you get high interest. And one of the things, I was just pulling up an old thing because back in the day in the chats, Richard was saying like, everyone says I suck and that Hex sucks and that it just has no use case. It's just a Ponzi scheme. But to answer your question, I think it's a second order effect of the design. So the incentive is to stake, and then as a result, everyone's staked, and we all got Big Payday and have just got insane gains. But as a result of that, every stake in the future now is something to look forward to. So if you look at some of Tony Robbins' work, he talks about how do you get people out of depression? They have to have a compelling future to look to, compelling vision to look forward to. So my hypothesis is Hex with the staking mechanism, and that the fact that you're getting such high interest and the gains have just been so immense, that every stake in the future that you have or you and I have is something to look forward to, right? Because you're like, how much USD value is it going to be? Am I going to sell some of the interest or all of it? Am I going to restake it, or what am I going to do, right? So it's like something to look forward to every single week or quarter or month or year. And I feel like now that there's obviously financial incentive too. So with those incentives and with that like vision and something to look forward to a year from now or Christmas, in a few months from now, it's like, I think that gives people a greater reason to live and to look forward to, because they're also thinking about how to spend the money, right? And that gives people joy as a result too. So I think just that is a second order effect of the beautiful design and the staking mechanism. And then obviously the community and all of the returns and the gains have been better than expected too. So when things go better than expectations in reality, the Hex expectations were pretty low or middle, let's say, and then they got worse over time when it launched. But now the reality is up here. So now everyone's so happy because there's this huge gap between what their expectations were and what reality shows.
Right.
So I think that as a factor too.
Yeah, it makes me think I just wanted to make 3 times my money over 10 years, right? I was totally happy with getting a 3x in 10 years. That's what this thing is going to do, this mechanism. I'm going to get into it. And I remember seeing on Hex Live, hexlive.com or hex.live, that little green number for the first time, which is now incorporated in the Staker app. So that little interest, including this number of interest, it's green. I remember seeing that number for the first time, and it was like 43 cents or 63 cents, something like that. It was nothing, but it was something. And that did something to me. Seeing that changed my whole perspective on everything. And then I started to get brought on this magic carpet ride, right? Like Richard brought us on, and the gains have been outstanding. The trouble now that I have, right, is everything is not proportionate to when I came in. So when I want to put money in now, I'm a little bit scared because am I going to 200x my money? Because that's really what my expectation is now, right?
Yeah.
So that's absurd, right? So like, I wonder if you could maybe speak to that as far as like, well, my expectations now are so out of whack. Are you experiencing anything like that? Or what do you think about
somewhat. That? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. Like if you're buying now, like $1,000 buy gets you what?
4,000 hex.
4,000 hex. So it is definitely weird buying like 4,000 hex for $1,000 when back in the day it was like 100,000, 200,000 hex. But you just have to look at the opportunity as it is today, right? You can't go back in the future as much as everyone wants to go back and say, I should have done this, should have done that. That's just a recipe for anxiety and stress.
Right.
All we can deal with today is the problems of today and act practically, rationally, and logically. So if currently it's around 28 cents, you still have to do the analysis of where do you think this is headed and how much of it is the Pulse Hex copy going to be, right? Like you have to treat every buy separately. Can't, that's just a cognitive bias to say, I bought it back here, therefore this buy is worse. Right. Yes, it's worse from what you got, but you can't go back in time, so it doesn't matter. Right. What matters is today. What is the price today on Uniswap?
That's right.
And then is this a good price relative to what it's going to be? As far as how long I stick it for? My speculation is I think PulseX will outperform eHex in the long term. I have no speculations as far as the short term, right after the fork, right before the fork, what's going to happen. I assume that there's going to be some people that are going to be selling their eHex for PulseX or Pulse on the ETH side, but I'm not going to be playing those games at any meaningful level. For me, it's just like I'm happy to get a copy. I think PulseX will outperform due to the features and the ease of use. But yeah, just treat everything as a brand new purchase, a brand new stake, and then, go from there. But, it's still only a little over a year and a half in, and there's still the same liquidity pools that there were 6 months ago. Right. So it's like they're still very illiquid relative to the total market size.
Right.
And, have like 70 million hex on the dexes, and you got, maybe 10, 20 million in USDC on the other side. So that's not very liquid for $100 billion coin. It's tiny. It's so that if that's the case, yes, the price is higher, much higher than it used to be, and it's hard to buy. But we still have the same liquidity sizes that we did when we pumped from 1 cent to 28 cents.
Right.
So to me, that means that there's still potential because the liquidity hasn't changed meaningfully. And if you check the limit orders on V2 and V3 constantly, you can see that, yes, people are adding limit orders as the price goes up, but it's not anywhere close to the buying pressure. So to me, that seems like it continue up into the fork.
John, no, certainly no
Yeah.
financial advice, but just if you have a brother like I do, right, and he's thinking about he just found Pulse, right, just found Hex, just found Richard Hart. This was a challenging question a couple months ago before sacrifice. Now it's really challenging for me. Are you able to hypothetically share some advice as far as what you'd give a friend or a brother that was coming in right now for the first time?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's say it was like my brother. Let's say he had like 10,000 to invest. I would probably, well, you can't invest in Pulse anymore. You can still sack, but the rates are so bad that I would not advise that. So I would probably do just normal hex ladder. Probably split it up in 3 to 5 stakes, either $2,000 each, 5 stakes, or maybe 2,500 4 stakes, and then just do a ladder, and then get my Pulse X copy, and then use the because Pulse might not be out for another few months. It could be a long time. It could be 2022 even.
Right.
Because there's still no test net. So if that's the case, you still have time to acquire more fiat and earn a living. So I would say that, and then just build a cash reserve. And then once you have that cash reserve, you can decide what you want to do once Pulse is launched. So I would still get your stakes in now because the share rate's only going up. Hex does not seem to be, there's a lot of bid support now, so it doesn't seem like Hex is going below 25 cents anymore, unless there's some big bags unload, which would be great for everyone.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it seems like there's a decent floor relative to where we're at currently. So I wouldn't even probably DCA in. I would probably just buy stake.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, with the PulseChain sacrifice happening, with the buy the rumor, sell the news events, do you foresee an opportunity to buy any dip? And if there was an opportunity to buy a dip, John, what would we need as the currency to pick up that dip, and on which chain? Because that's where I get a little bit confused. I was holding USDC for a while, and then I missed the boat on 10-cent Hex, 12-cent Hex, 15-cent Hex, because I was holding this USDC for a copy of 1-to-1. So I missed the boat, right? The Hex has doubled in price. I got in at 18 cents for myself, but I missed the boat. I should have just bought some Hex. So I'm having trouble understanding really where this potential dip might come from. What would you have that you'd be able to pick up a dip on either side? Could you walk me through that if you understand?
Yeah, sure. So on the ETH Hex side, and if we're again assuming that there's going to be a dip perhaps before the launch, you can use any ERC20 or to buy the dip in ETH Hex, right? It's just normal. You're used to that. So once Pulse is launched, if you're to buy the dip, you could have USDC and get a snapshot, but to me it's risky because we don't know what the USDC value is going to be on the new chain, and it might get invalidated entirely, making it worth zero. So it's a gamble. But my guess is you can bridge ETH or USDC on the ETH network once it's launched to Pulse, and then you use that to buy the dip in Pulse. So what I'm doing is I'm preparing for a dip in any of the coins, the Richard Hart Holy Trinity coins, Pulse, ETH, Hex, and PX. Mm-hmm. So if I don't know what's going to happen, but I will be prepared for a dip on ETH Hex. I'll be prepared for a dip on PX, and I'll be prepared for a dip on Pulse. And then I'll act accordingly, right? So that's just my strategy. But you should be able to bridge any Ethereum asset to Pulse seamlessly for very cheap. Maybe just an ETH send transaction. So yeah, until that's launched, you can't bridge over, obviously, but you'll still be able to buy the ETH side just as normal if you did. So if you want to speculate on some of the PRC20s, you can, but it might be better just to buy them on a dip too, right? Because if people are getting all these free PRC20s and there's going to be liquidity for them initially, then logic seems to stand that some of these communities are going to know about Pulse and they're going to dump their PRC20s for like ETH, right? Like something that has tangible value in the real world in exchange for something that may or may not have value.
Right.
So that's what I think is going to happen for some of the communities that will bridge over. It's just so hard to tell which ones will come over and which ones will actually try to do the liquidity mining. But that is the main fundamental that Richard mentioned for the PRC20s is you're going to be able to do liquidity mining with your ERC20 and your free copy on Pulse. So you'll be able to generate this new token, this pancake swap token or whatever it's going to be called, using that. So I think that's how he's planning on getting adoption from people from Ethereum that are just fed up with these 200 Gwei gas costs, which makes 99% of people outpriced of the market. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. What do you thank you regarding that liquidity that Richard's talking about doing something different? Could you speak on that? Because I'm completely lost with that. Do you have any insight?
Okay, yeah. I'll just give you an example on using Hex. So you have ETH Hex, which is going to be copied to let's say you just have 1 million E Hex liquid. And then the fork happens, and then you just get 1 million P Hex. So Richard is saying that he will allow, there will be a bridge. So you can send your E Hex to Pulse. So you'll have 1 million of E Hex on Pulse, and you have 1 million of P Hex. You will have the option to put those million, right? It's the same ratio. So you put those both into the pool, the liquidity, like the pancake swap fork
on the Pulse side. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's going to be a new token. So it's going to be a fork of pancake swap, but let's say the token is called, I don't know, Flower. So you're going to be earning Flower tokens for providing liquidity, and you're going to be earning fees on the trade, on you're earning more Hex, EHEX, and PHEX on the trading fees, assuming a lot of people are going to be trading EHEX and PHEX pair, which they probably will, right? Because the vast majority of Pulse users initially are going to be Hexicans. So essentially, you're just going to be able to, it's going to be another income generating way to earn more yield, but not staking it. So I'm sure most people will stake it, but like with the other PRC20s that you can't stake, so let's say just like Uni, if you have P Uni and E Uni, you can bridge that E Uni over to the Pulse side, put them both in the what did we say the swap was called? The Flower swap.
Flower swap.
So you put in Flower swap, and then you're earning more Flower tokens every day, every second. You're earning Flower tokens, right? And then the value of those Flower tokens could go up, right, based on the speculation, like similar to what QuickSwap did on Matic, or Pancake Swap did on BSC, right? So like those have potential to pump too.
That's the experience I have, John. Is very limited through that. I worked briefly with LDA. They represent QuickSwap, so I very briefly looked into Matic, Polygon, because part of my work entailed that. After seeing the way that they handled Iron Titan rug pull and just the DDoS attack, the Cloudflare failure that day, it was a unique shit show, to say the least. So my apprehension, my radar was firing on all cylinders, and I wanted to quickly get away from that environment as fast as I could. In seeing all that, I have a complete understanding of everything you just said. So I thank you. I did think Richard Hart was talking about doing something never done before. So doing something with liquidity that wasn't done. He was going to increase the liquidity somehow, I thought. And that's where I'm like, what is he talking about?
Maybe you're talking about the AMM fixer bot.
Okay.
Is that what you mean? Like which will adjust the pools?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to happen immediately.
Yeah. So basically, in layman's terms, since the supply of Pulse is going to be 10,000 or roughly around that, higher than ETH, the pairs in Uniswap currently are going to need to be adjusted so that the value of Pulse is going to be equivalent to the value of ETH, counting for the supply differential. So essentially, the AMM bot, fixer bot, will go in and buy up the PRC, or it will buy up the one side of the pool. It'll get a lot of PRC20s.
Specifically, what would it buy, John? Can you put a name to it, just in an example?
I don't want to say anything because I don't definitively know for sure, but I know it will for sure. It will input, I think, it will put one of the tokens, I think Pulse, a bunch of Pulse into it. Yeah, it's going to have to put Pulse into it. It's going to have to mint Pulse and put it into the pool. And then it's going to get the PRC20 back. So this AMM fixer bot, which is like the OA, technically, it'll be the first transaction on the network for all the pools. And then this OA will have control of those PRC20s. So the OA of Pulse is actually going to have a financial interest in pumping these PRC20s.
Is that going to be a heavy point of contention from Fudsters? Because I can already
Yep.
All right.
Will be.
I'm surprised that hasn't started yet. I'd love to Have you heard
Because
anyone
I don't think many
discuss?
people know that
Okay.
that's how the functionality. Only like the Hexicans know, but not. I don't think the other communities they're not that deep into the weeds as far as how that's going to work, right? So the OA on Pulse is going to get 1%, just as the Genesis address. It's going to get I think they said 2.5% of all PRC20s on Uniswap. It sacrificed about 95%, so it's going to have about 96% of all Pulse, and it's going to have about 2.5% of all the Uni PRC20 coins too.
Okay.
So it's going to have a large supply, and it has a financial interest in, which is good, right? It's going to have a financial interest in pumping
certainly.
the price of some of these PRC20s, including PHEX.
Definitely.
And in theory, it's not going to be sell pressure ever either.
Okay.
So yeah, it is definitely going to be FUDed. Just like the sacrifice will be FUDed, the centralization will be FUDed. The shitcoinery will be FUDed. That Richard's just trying to move to the next thing, get more money, and then raise money, a whole bunch of money, and then 2 years from now he'll just do another token and raise a bunch of money. So I think sure there's gonna be that kind of FUD too.
Yeah.
But for us that know that world domination is the goal and not financial, going back to like we were talking about, money is not the end goal for Richard anymore, right? Because he's already there and he's already done the hedonic treadmill. He's done everything he's ever wanted to do. Now it's about world domination. We know that that's positive for Hex and Pulse, but again, people will spin it in their own narratives just to serve their purposes and what they're trying to project to their followers, right? So,
John,
it doesn't matter, right? Because it's going to succeed. It's going to succeed or do whatever it does, no matter what people say. Just like Hex, right? People said had all these opinions about what it was going to do, or the centralization, or the AA arbitrage, going in and putting in ETH to prevent the arbitrage people. Like, yeah, those things were all, some of them were true and have merit, but at the end of the day, the price chart is what matters. The price chart speaks for itself. So I think the same thing will apply to Pulse and PRs and PHEX. People's opinions on coins does not affect the market. It doesn't.
It's funny you said that, John. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. There's a name, Stacy Bannerdine, you may have seen around in our chats.
So.
And I've seen the name and I can't remember why, but like yesterday or the day before, they were on DC's channel and they brought up, they're like, DC was letting them go with the Hex is a scam thing. He's like, it's cool that I like the way he handled it. It was really, really cool to watch him. He's like, I appreciate why you think that, but what was funny is that was Stacy Bannerdine's point, was that the AA was recycled, back in Hex, and therefore that's why this entire thing is a scam. So it's somebody that I've seen this whole time in our community, and they're still regurgitating that.
Yeah.
I did want to add a little quick story, personal anecdote. So John, I have an older brother. He's 20 years older than me. Always been very successful financially. Was retired when I was 18 years old. So he was 35. Multi-millionaire. Been a Wall Street investor. Professional poker. Excuse me, not professional poker. Professional blackjack player. Races, all kinds of fast machines, motorcycles, off-road buggies. Like he's a wild man and a successful one. Him and I have had our ups and downs, our ins and outs, and he just found out through my father last week, maybe the week before, that we were into Hex, that my dad had put in $8,000 into Hex, and now he was well over $250,000. And he was really happy. He's showing my brother, and my brother is like, wow, that's amazing. Please tell me, Joe got into it as well, right? And my dad tells him, and he tells him, not only did I get into it, but my dad puts an exact dollar amount of where I'm at, an exact amount of quantity that I own, right? So he throws that out there, and it's funny because my brother starts to do some research and realizes that through talking to my dad that we also sacrifice for Pulse. So this mechanism of Hex, this product that has made us so much money, so much return, this founder has also created this other thing. So he's telling my brother, and he's getting excited about Pulse. And then he realizes he missed the launch, and he's like, wow, you guys are doing really great. Finds out how much money I made. And it's funny because the very first thing he said regarding me and my situation to my father was, Dad, it's too bad you didn't let me know about Joe's financial position like 6-7 months ago, he could have really like locked up some of his gains, pulled out of that hex and got into some like blue chip stocks and like really just solidified his gains and gone the responsible route. And so I'm just laughing to myself as my dad's telling me this, as I'm reading the text, because it's like somebody that I've looked up to my whole life that represents success in the financial world to me. We're showing him this beautiful thing on a platter. I'm like, not only can we describe every part of it in detail for you, but we have the experience of cashing out, right? We made it. It works. And it's just, I just wanted to share that, like, you can't even go as far as your own family, before you hear. The next thing my brother wrote back was, hey, hey, Dad, have you or Joe taken any money out of this thing yet? I'm looking into it. It looks like it's pretty deep. The scam label's pretty thick on it. So even still now today, it's helping gatekeep us, because it's allowing, us who believe, us who know, more opportunity to buy before these other guys come in that, they're just going to mess around with the price. They aren't going to stay here long term. So
Yeah.
It was a trip, John. It was a trip to make it, and then have my brother tell me, hey, you should really get in some blue chip stocks,
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. It's like it seems like a lot of the Wall Street guys, even though they're super sharp and they know their stuff, it's just they don't like it. They feel like it's a threat to them. It's like, oh, Joe did so well. It's like, oh, he might be passing me soon. That's that kind of the vibe I feel. And it's like, it seems like such a cheat code. It's like so fast. It's like it's an unregulated asset. It's like they're always like, oh, you should take your profits now. I'm like, you don't know anything about the project, how you just, or the whole ecosystem and like the liquidity and the limit orders, and like you don't know any of this stuff, and you're giving financial advice on something you don't understand. Doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
But I think just a lot of people aren't meant to get it, and if that's, to me, that's okay, right? It's not for everyone. Yes, it does. I think most people they could benefit from it. But like you said, if it's since it's been gatekept, it's been labeled a scam. That's been good for people like us that have been buying for long periods of time. The only people we hear crying about the gatekeeping and all the scam narrative is the people that have already filled their bags and just wanted to pump. But the people that are still accumulating, like you and I, we actually want the scam to continue, because that just means we're still early. We're still before the waves, and we're still before the vast majority, the average American just knows about it, right? So it's just like, it's actually, you can spin it in a negative light, or you can spin it in a positive way, depending on your vantage point and your situation. But like a lot of the OGs are still DCAing in at any price, right? Because we see the potential, and the fork is still eligible. And it's changed so many people's lives that we're passionate to talk about it. And I think some of that passion kind of rubs off as a Ponzi scheme too, right? It's just like, it seems too good to be true. The gains are too high that people think that's like too late, and then they think it's going to one day be scammed out by the OA or Richard, right? Yeah. Like that's the most of the pushback I get is like Richard. They don't like Richard. They think he's sketchy, and he's just playing a different game that most people don't understand, right? And only like people that follow him, watch all his videos, understand that he's not playing the game that everyone else would play, right? I think a lot of people project what they would do in his situation, as opposed to learning about the man and understanding his intentions and his goals, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of it's projection, but it's worked out. It's worked out great, right? And I think Pulse will do good things too. It's just, and I just don't think it will be able to scam as much, but I still don't think it's going to get the crypto community to embrace it. I don't think that will happen at all.
Yeah, I like Richard's new video. There's a new vibe to it with that with his background. It's out of focus, and he's right there with the pink shirt, right? It's 11 minutes long. That's done in a different style. I like that. It's that'll catch a different demographic, when they see that. So that's pretty cool. I don't know who's helping him with that, or if that was his idea, but great job on that video. John, what do you think about all of us in this space? I was ready to declare bankruptcy a year ago, right? Certainly not in that position now. I'm one guy. There's guys that have enjoyed 100x the gains that I have, right? And they're already Starting to think, maybe I stream less. I've already had guests cancel on me this month, as a matter of fact, OGs. And understandably so. Their bags are, they're gigantic now. And I don't like some of the reasons I heard. But if I put myself in their shoes, I get it. And so I guess my question is, like, for me, I want to stream. I want to be in this community. It's important to me for my health, for my mental illness, to stay fit mentally, spiritually. Is this something you're thinking about already? Like, is this an exit strategy that we all have to have? Is if you reach a certain dollar amount, is it not safe to come on stream anymore? I mean, what do you think about things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think posting your stakes and your staker app and all that, I think is a little bit foolish for most people. But some people do that like with behind pseudonyms and stuff. But for the most part, crypto is still a wild, wild west, and you need to be careful and take good measures and security practices and all that. But as far as streaming, I don't think that's an issue. Richard still streams. I think we'll have people drop out, but that's fine. We already have a lot of new people streaming coming in, right? That have got in maybe in the last 6, 9 months, 12 months, that are doing their own, like Gerardo's channels, I think 3,000-4,000 subscribers already. And he's been doing some of the more data analytics stuff. So I think as it's this next man up, I think if some people drop out, that's fine. I think the OGs will still be around as far as like RG and Discourse. And it's just like a matter of passion, right? It's like, sure, you're passionate about it 2 years ago, but is the same passion there? Is the same interest there? I don't know. It's not for me to say tell anyone what to do. But if they feel like the passion is dying out, then they have every right to stop streaming, and they don't need to explain themselves, I don't think. I think it's
what
just
about for
totally
me personally, John? Is it scary? Is the world that scary that like I need to consider not streaming, or can this, like you just said about Richard? I mean, the proof is right there.
I don't think so.
Like Richard, okay.
I don't think so. As long as you have your security practices in place, you have some stop gaps in case that goes wrong. You have a second backup plan. As long as you have backup plans and your family's safe, that's what I would probably prioritize. If stuff does hit the fan and you have to be more cautious and be more careful and live on a hill by yourself, then maybe that's what's right for you. But I think in the current environment, I don't see Bitcoiners and Ethereum whales getting whacked or ransomed or link whales or XRP whales. Like there's whales in every single crypto, right? And there's, paper millionaires everywhere in crypto. And I don't think you should limit your lifestyle just because that reason of being fearful. But I think you do need to be practical as far as taking care of your shit.
Yeah.
Being pragmatic about security and safety.
Yeah, it's one of those catch-22s, because for me, I can't help others if I don't go help others, right? And I'm not here for anything other than the selfish reasons to stay sober. So I want to have these discussions. I want to get into some emotional connections with Hexicans so I can share their experiences, and I don't want to stop doing that because my staker app, it's a certain dollar amount. At the same time, the people that know more than I do, that have been here on this earth longer, some of those people are making moves, and it's just got me thinking, and you're right, with the next class coming in, like guys like Gerardo, it's like superstars like Gerardo. I don't feel like we're gonna drop the ball in any way. It's by anything, we're growing. There's more coming. It's the fury is getting more. So I'm just I'm a little bit conflicted about what to do in a couple of years. I guess it's a great problem to have, so it's not worth worrying about.
Well, but you can solve that problem 2 years from now, not today, right? You don't have to solve that 2-year problem today, which is a good thing, right? So you can just go on, stream it, enjoying your life, and if that serves you, then great, that's awesome, keep doing it, right? But then if it doesn't, I wouldn't feel bad about if you ever have to leave or for any personal reasons, family reasons. It's your life. We don't own you. You're not an employee of the Hex streamers, or you're not W-2, or this is all free. This is all passion projects. This isn't this. If anyone's streaming, it feels like it's a job. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. Me personally, I just come on streams when I have something of value to add. I feel like So I don't go on streams that often, but once I have a lot of built up notes and data and I want to share, then I'll come on. But if that changes and I come on once a year or whatever, 2 years, then that's fine. But for me, I just want to, my goal is to just add value, increase the educational awareness of Hex and the contract and data and all the stats, because I feel like the more people understand that, then they will naturally gravitate towards staking longer and then doing what's in their best interest, and holding, right? So, and on that note, I've been watching the hexdailystats.com. It's fairly new. I don't know if you checked it out. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ryan Lopez.
Yeah,
I don't know who else helped him, but that was amazing what Ryan's done.
Yeah, we've been increasing the daily stakers 2 to 3. Yesterday was a high. It was 462 new stakers yesterday. But in the last few weeks, I've been tracking it every day, and it's like 200 to 300 new stakers a day. So any of those new people could be streamers in the future too, right? And if we're getting 200, 300 a day, let's do the math. Let's just say 250 times 365. That's 91,000 stakers added a year.
Wow.
Right. So I'm sure the gap will be filled with streamers. We already have too many that you can't even keep up.
Yeah, so to keep that going, if anybody's watching out there, we say this from time to time, pick up DM one of us, get some your laptop, your cell phone. You can get StreamYard, a free account, and you can start this either by yourself or with a friend. And you'd be surprised what you do with a little bit of commitment. Set up a routine, follow through. The community's here, and so I hope someone out there is watching right now that's like on the fence that hears this conversation and plans a stream in the next week, because that is, our goal. That is what my goal here is to inspire other people to come and create in our community so that we can, build this network effect and keep helping people. John, you brought up something before I wanted to touch on, because it was a really cool point. It was a call, in a sense. What you called the OA to enter into the sacrifice phase. You're the only other person that I saw publicly going out there and saying that. So like, I'm kind of like a jackass. I'll call myself. Like, I can't make any calls. I don't know anything. I'm just like throwing stuff out there, and like, who's going to listen to me? And I came on stream and was saying this stuff, and I didn't get validation at all until the sacrifice phase was almost over. And then you and Scotty showed up, and you guys, presented that information. And I was just curious, what made you, was it just a feeling you had inside? Did you do some research, or like?
No, it was just logic. I knew that Richard likes and touts the benefits of economic centralization. So he obviously knows the benefits of decentralization, but everyone conflates the two together. So when Richard always talks about the economic centralization, he gets really mad when people bring it up, because they view it as a bad thing, right? They say it's a bad thing because one guy owns it all and he could sell it all one day and the price goes to zero. But he's like, no, it's actually a good thing, because Elon Musk never has to sell Tesla shares, and his net worth just goes up every year. And the same thing can happen with Pulse and Hex. And Richard's like a trillionaire probably by now, right? And everyone likes to count other people's money, and that's just kind of the old world of everyone likes to see where they stand in this status ranking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a logical conclusion based on that I didn't see the large Hex whales sacrifice at all. And basically, if he wanted to maintain economic centralization and become the main validator of Pulse, then he had to sacrifice. And sacrificing at a flat volume bonus made the most sense, because he didn't harm the people that sacrificed early. So he obviously thought it through and knew ahead of time that he was going to sacrifice late, but he didn't tip his hand in any way. He didn't say it outright, but it just made sense for him to sacrifice, because we want him owning 95% of the supply, because we saw it in Hex and we saw the price performance of that. And Pulse isn't going to have the same staking lockups, but it's going to have more use cases, right? You can stake it, but there's no lockup. And you can provide liquidity, but there's no lockup, right? You can participate in any of the ETH ecosystem stuff, NFTs, whatever you want, but there's no lockups. So it's a different model, but it still has a great potential because of the 95% plus ownership.
Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
The point my brother was bringing up was exactly that, hey, you guys should watch out for this centralization of ownership that's going on over here. And I remember as a new Hexican, I wasn't always Joe Hexotic. I may have said this on stream before, but I had been in Hex like a month as my real name. And I used to go around asking questions that were offensive Hex Monkey, thank you for the super chat, brother. Grateful to know you, and much respect to both of you. Thank you, Hex Monkey. Hex Monkey, I'm going to shoot you a DM, brother, so we can get caught up on that show that we missed. So I do have a cancellation coming up. I'd love to fit you in. Thank you. So that, as a new Hexakin, I was walking around basically, where does the ETH go? Where does the ETH go? Right. And like, nobody would answer me, but I'd watch the chats and I'd be like, why does sometimes they answer each other? Like they clearly see my question, but they're just brushing it over. Like just nobody's going to respond. And over time, like I realized like, all right, you don't be negative. You don't ask that devil's advocate question. If you want to phrase something, you phrase it in a positive manner. And I saw like what works. And then I became Joe Hexotic. And in one message, Maddie reached out to me, and we started streaming, and it was really cool. But I've gone from being a concerned troll that was worried about where does the ETH go, so much so that I'll vocalize it, to now during the sacrifice phase, I was visibly disturbed by that not happening yet. So I was watching different actors in our ecosystem sacrifice, come out of the woodwork, look for attention, dropping $500 super chats at people that they don't even know who they are, just so that they can get their name out there. Basically running the gamut of these emotions. And where I ended was the OA came in and they sacrificed Hex, and I felt relief, massive relief. I felt at home. I felt safe, and it was like this complete full circle that only a true Hexakin would understand, and I just wanted to share that with you, John, on screen. That it was a really cool moment when you guys came up and said that, because nobody else was saying that, and you put out such a high number that day that even I laughed at you. I was like, oh man, this dude's got, he's funny. And you were right. I think they came out with they sacrificed even more. Is that right?
Yeah,
so
it was like 13 billion total. My initials was, I thought 10, but in order to get 90% ownership, I said 6. So it actually got more than 90% ownership. It was like 95 plus. Yeah. So, it was, to me, it wasn't a hard call. It wasn't a call at all. It was just, it seemed obvious to me. Because like, where are all the whales sacrificing? Like, where are they? I don't see any of them. I just see like users sacrificing. I didn't see any of the whales that are just sitting liquid sacrifice. So yeah. But we'll see how much pulse we get. That'll be another speculative thing to eyeball, is how much pulse you get.
Would you like to throw out a possible number as far as the totality of pulse that will be in existence? Do you have some ideas as far as a range?
Someone in the chats. I don't have a great.
60 trillion to 180 trillion is what I
maybe something like
across.
That. It's going to be a lot, right?
Okay.
That'll be flooded too. It's going to be in the high trillions. That'll be flooded too. But again, if we know about this economic centralization of the coins, we'll see how he distributes the coins too. Are they all going to be in one wallet? Probably not. They're probably going to be like dispersed all over the place and just sit liquid. Is my guess, because that will. My question is, I don't know, is staking Pulse or delegating Pulse, does that take it out of the market cap, or does that still act as if it was liquid? I'm not sure.
It could still act as if it was liquid. I don't know either.
Yeah, it's a proof of stake coin, so I don't know. Yeah, it's different than Hex, right? Because when you stake, you burn. But
regarding this question on screen, John, this has come up a couple times recently. I'm not on screen. I'll put it up right now. Do you guys know why my limit orders never fill? Price is below my buy point. I did discuss this with Papa B recently, but John, do you have an answer out the gate?
Yeah, so it's pretty common depending on what you use. So most people are doing V2 or V3. So basically a bot has to be profitable after the gas fees to fill your order. So if the price is like 25 cents on one pool and it's 26 on another, and your bid's at 25 or at 20, let's say 24, it has to dump past your price, and then a bot has to say, okay, if I buy or sell this order, and then I could sell it immediately over here, I make a profit. That's how your order gets filled most of the time. Unless it's just like a giant buy order, market buy, then it will hit some of those, limits. But sometimes it doesn't get filled because it's either too small of an order. If it's like, $500, $1,000, the bigger orders will take precedent too, because the bot wants to fill the bigger order because it can make more profit. Right? So a 1,000,000 hex order versus a 10,000 hex order, it's going to probably take the 1,000,000 hex order, because then it can arbitrage 25 cents to 26 cents, make more of a profit, because it has to overcome the gas fees to make those trades. So it's a math formula for the bot. And if the math formula makes sense, it'll execute. If not, it'll just stay there. So that's usually,
if you're selling $1,000 worth of hex on a limit order and the gas is $100, you should theoretically expect the price to move up to $1,100 worth of your hex in order for that sale to execute.
At least, because then that's just breaking even, right? It has to make a profit.
Wow.
Usually, right? So unless, if someone just market buys a shit ton, it'll hit all those orders that come across and the pools, and just the AMM normal pool. But that's in general how it works. So a lot of people aren't getting it filled due to size or due to the pricing on one pool versus the other, because V2 and V3 have totally separate prices, right? They're price oracles technically, but they have different prices. So they're going to fluctuate. They're going to diverge until someone closes the gap. So I think that's what most of the limit orders are being filled for or not being filled for. Thank you.
Yeah, I had experience with that myself. Like I said, I just started selling some hex, so I put up some limit orders. I've tried to sell hex before as well on limit orders. They just never went through. 1 out of 10 went through, I would say. I didn't know why. Had all these discussions with everybody. Got into the thick of it with Papa B the other day. John, he said the same thing you just said. So I believe, that's obviously it if both you guys are thinking that. And then I've watched now in the past week 2 of my limit orders get executed. On both of them, the price did exactly what the viewer just wrote in, that it passed my price and then came back down, and then it passed up again. So it didn't grab it enough to be profitable on that first run, but it did on the second, and it didn't cost me any in gas. So I didn't need the money. It was like I put it up there just in case, because I've made this commitment to my family. We're going to do it. I wouldn't be brokenhearted if it didn't sell. But if I did need that money and I didn't know how it worked and I watched that, I would be very let down. So I'm glad that we can have this discussion.
I know the feeling for sure. Because when they first came out, I would set a bunch. But then with Hex, it's tough to set limit orders because it's just a perpetual bull flag. So if something that just goes up and then it chops and then goes up, chops, it's hard to catch limit orders, right? Because there's not that much wick down.
For limit buy.
Yeah, for buys. Yeah. But limit sells are fine, right? Because it just keeps pumping and you can just keep hitting your limit sells. But for buys, I see a lot of people just setting limits, waiting to get filled, but then the price just goes up 2x and then you're never going to get filled, right? Because then the new floor is like way higher. So it's like you have to dynamically adjust your limits based on the price action and like potential emergency end stakers or big, you could look at like if a lot of stakes are ending this day, there might be some sell pressure right after 5 o'clock or 8 p.m., depending on where you're at. So there's so many. The cool thing about Hex is there's so much data to look at, and it can help your trading if you trade, or it can just help your long-term entries because there's so much more data. Like I mean, the trading chat, I'm looking at like people emergency end stake in real time, and then I know for sure they're probably going to sell. If they paid a big penalty to end stake, they're definitely going to sell, right? And then there's immediate wick down, right? And then you can just buy that, and then immediately wicks back up because people are just eating the dip up. So awesome. That's the dangerous limit orders. But of course, if you're fee conscious and you're really and your buys are smaller, then it's tough, because your orders are less likely to get filled. You can't really market buy because you don't want to pay $100 or more to just market buy. But if you're doing small amounts, you could buy on ethhex.com version 1, and the gas fees are 3 times cheaper. So if it was $45 to swap on V2, it would be $15 to swap on V1.
Wow.
But the liquidity is much smaller. So if it's $500 or $1,000 less, then it makes sense. But anything more, you have too much slippage. That makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. John, would you like to discuss your experience between, or just theoretically what the difference between Matcha 1-inch and Uniswap V3 are regarding limit orders?
Yeah. So Matcha 1-inch, what was the other one you said?
Uniswap V3 has that quasi add one side of liquidity.
Yeah.
So if you just want to touch on that, thank you.
So Matcha and 1-inch are all V2. So if you go to the metric.exchange and you type in the Hex USDC pair, Those are all the V2 orders as far as I know, because they use the 0x relayer pool to route the trades. V3 is a totally different system where you provide liquidity at a set price, which is effectively a limit order sell or limit order buy. So it's not gonna, those orders themselves aren't gonna act like a just adding pool on both sides. You can, on V3, you can add liquidity on just one side. You could just do like a million hex sell at 30 cents and just have that and not add both USDC and hex. So V3 is actually much better for limit orders, but the problem with setting limit orders on V3 is sometimes someone will market buy huge on V2 and then the V3 is not going to get hit, right? And then the bots will arbitrage the two, but you might not get filled. So sometimes you can set limiters on both V2 and V3 at the same strike if you want to try to combat that. But yeah, so those are the main differences. They're essentially the same. They're different pools, so the price is going to be different on both. So you just have to be careful with which pool you're setting it in, and then obviously be conscious of the fees to set the limits, because I believe V3 you have to provide liquidity, which is a gas fee, right? You're adding something to the pool, so that's a gas fee every time. So if you're not a whale, that might not make sense because you're constantly moving your order and paying ETH gas fees, which is like 150 Gwei right now.
Excuse me.
150, 160, yeah, right now.
Thank you, John. To me, it was a couple things related to gas as well. So matcha.xyz, if you want to create a limit order, you're going to need to enable MetaMask to buy or sell that coin. So whether it be USDC or Hex, you'll need to pay an Ethereum fee to, I don't know, what's the right word? Do you know the terminology?
Just to set the limit.
Place
the limit.
No, on Matcha, it's a one-time fee in your wallet in MetaMask so that you can
enable
that coin.
Approval, the permissions.
Yeah. And so in Matcha, you don't need to pay anything beyond that. So limit orders, buys, and sells are free. Yep. Inside of 1 inch, though, I believe you actually, and I'm actually not sure about 1 inch, but I know
they
V3
charge a fee.
Uniswap, you're paying that gas in and out. And I believe 1 inch is the same. So I've heard 1 inch works better. You'll get your orders filled more is what I've heard, but there's a fee to get in and out. So I love Matcha because it costs me nothing. I can set it for 1 hour, 24 hours, or 72 hours. I like that so far, but like I said, I haven't had to sell it and then have it not work because that would be a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that's a good point. Yeah, 1 inch does require a gas fee to set them, which is different than Matcha or Metric. So on metric.exchange, you can also set the date and time you want the order to expire. Whereas like Matcha, it's like you only have a set amount of, like, you can do 1 day, 7 days, you know? So you can set the actual day it ends, which is kind of cool. But I haven't used metric.exchange yet, but people have told me they did, and they said they've had good experiences with it. So people can try that out too. It's a great tool for looking at the limit orders all in one place. Have you seen it? I'll send you the link.
No, I haven't. And I'm reading the chat. Bree and Hex Hodl both are adding that they don't believe that there's any gas fees to set the limit order. It would be only to cancel, just like Matcha.
Oh, to cancel. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thank you guys for that.
I just send you in the private chat the link to the Hex USDC V2 metric exchange order book. So if you want to post that.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It's and that's for USDC. You can type in like DAI too. There's some orders in DAI and USDT.
Go.
Let's see if there's any WETH pairs. How much?
1 second.
So when I'm looking at the limit order book for Hex, I'm looking at this metric exchange, and I'm looking at the Uni V3 liquidity tab. Shows you where the orders are there. So combination of those two will give you a very good idea of where people are setting their orders, and then you can trade around that, or you can just set your orders around those, right? So right now we have a big on V3. We have a 670K limit buy at 27.46 cents. So that's been slowly creeping up. It was 25 cents. Now it's 27 cents, 0.5 cents. So this person's trying to get filled 700K but they can't. So they constantly move their limit order up.
Wow.
So that means we have the price floors actually keeps climbing too, unless we get millions and millions of dollars of selling. But there's a lot of 100K bids too along the way. So that can just give, like, just looking at that data can give you an idea of where we're headed as far as like a price floor or a price wick. And then you can, with reasonable assumption, you can say, if we do wick there, we're probably not going to go much further, right? Because there's a big bid there, 27.5. And right now we're at like 28.
Wow. So if I want to, I better adjust my limit sell then to get in there before that guy does, then, right?
For the limit buy. He's limit buy.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And I just sent you in the private chat, I sent you the link to the V3, the Uniswap V3 USDC pool.
Cool. I'll share this as well over on YouTube.
That's where people can check out the V3 orders if they hit the liquidity tab.
Awesome.
See all the limit orders. And that buy wall at like 5.5 cents is it's basically out of the picture now unless you zoom out. But right now we have 22 million hex locked and 20 million USDC. So there's a huge favor. The market is favoring the USDC orders. So that means we have a lot more buy pressure orders than sell pressure orders, which is net bullish. And then on V2, on the metric exchange, there doesn't seem to be too much sell pressure. Yeah, there's not much sell pressure at all. There's a couple million at 37 cents. Yeah, it's not much at all. So there's not much stopping the price moving up from a lot, but there is a lot stopping the price from moving down below 27.5 cents. So from a risk reward perspective, can't go below 27.5, or it's very unlikely, but there's not much limit sell pressure above. It's a pretty easy trade, right? If you're a trader, or even if you're just a long-term accumulator, right? Like, so that means these prices is unlikely will go much further down.
And what's funny is that most traders that would be able to take advantage of these tools don't know that they exist, I would imagine, right? So like,
I know.
You do, and we do. So it's pretty cool.
It's cool, yeah. If you're swing trading or anything, I don't really trade Hex, but I just get it and I stake it for the most part. So that strategy's worked. Just the interest in the Hex is so large relative to other income producing assets that it's so hard for me not to stake. It's just like the yield is so attractive. Irrespective of the USD value going up, like, just the yield is insane, right? It's like, would I rather have if I had 10,000 just extra dollars, would I leave it in the bank and maybe earn 1% in a high yield, or could I put it in a 1-year stake and earn 13% APY and get a copy of my Hex on the new chain? It's a very easy trade, especially when you factor in that they just keep printing US dollars. Seems like every quarter they're doing a new bill. It's $1 trillion plus, and that's mostly going into bonds, more real estate, stocks. So,
John, got a question. What's your shortest stake? Do you have a short stake ladder that you rotate?
I don't do just the short stake stuff, but I think when before big payday, my shortest stake was like 6 months. I think something like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I made a 1-year stake, a little bit more than 1 year. So that just came out. That was my first real stake that ended. But when Ski Cat gifted me some Hex, the second time Ski Cat gifted me Hex, I didn't know what I was going to do financially. I was really hit. I didn't have a job, certainly wasn't a millionaire from Hex. I didn't know how I was going to keep my house. So basically I had, I think that 1 million Hex that Ski Cat gave me was worth $8,000 at the time. And I used that just as a buffer. Like, I wanted to keep it liquid. And then 45 days had gone by. I was going to plan to sell it because I didn't know what was going to happen. I figured, like, this is my safety net. And the price kept, going up. And like 45 days had passed. I hadn't done anything with part of it. So I ended up, staking it out because I missed that time. And I made a 6 month, and I'm sorry, no, what was it?
So 1 year?
I did a 90-day stake and a 180-day stake. And so 3 months and 6 months. And now that I've done that, I have a full ladder, right? So I have a full big ladder. I'm still working on it, still filling in, but it's all done essentially when I make some more moves with stakes coming out. So I do have this short stake ladder that has ended a couple times that I was able to throw out long. I do have a stake that's a part of that short stake ladder that comes out in November of this year. And I like the idea of holding an emergency fund, a 6-month emergency fund, basically as liquid or as short-term stakes. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. If you can even hold it liquid too, like there's no problem with holding liquid hex. It's just for my personal situation.
Oh
If
yeah.
I don't need the money, I'm happy
Yeah.
to stake it out. It's anything 10-year plus 35% APY, and that's gonna go. The APY will go up over time, too.
The
So
APY will go up over time.
yes, on those long stakes. Yep. Because
I've never heard anybody say that, John. Really?
yeah, as the Genesis shares leave the pool, the T shares will become more scarce, and the payout will go up over time too because the inflation, right? So let's say penalties are static or out of the picture. Just the inflation alone is going to be 3.69% a year on the payout. And then as those stakes come undone and as new supply gets minted from these Genesis shares, the supply will go up. And then the inflation will go up as a result. And then people are going to, once they restake, unless everyone's staking 10 years plus after their shares come undone, we will go deflationary from a shares perspective.
Right.
And then the payouts, inflation-wise, will just go up every year. Will just continually rise. So the payout will go up. The total T shares in the pool will go down. So the APY will go up on those long stakes. So like the Genesis ones, before big payday, 10 years and up. Right now they're paying like 60, 70. That could be three digits in a few years, in like 5 years,
Wow.
6 years. Yeah. It's
wow.
crazy.
So is it too late to the guy that's holding 1 million liquid hex right now that's watching? That's one of my friends that has some stakes, but he's holding 1 million liquid. Is it too late to stake out that liquid, John? Is
no,
it too
absolutely
late?
not. No,
All
absolutely not.
I don't mean to drive
design
home
of
that point, but I just I've been trying to get my buddy to get going over here.
Yeah, I mean the design of Hex is so brilliant that even if you onboarded 1 million people, everyone's still going to get their slice of the inflation, right? So it's not a zero-sum game where my inflation takes away from yours. It's just I get a little bit less, but I'm still getting the inflation that I'm deserved. And the new people are getting their inflation that they deserve.
Sorry if I cut out for a second.
Oh yeah, it did cut out. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I switched over to my
Okay.
my Wi-Fi or personal hotspot.
Yeah.
I should be good.
Okay. Yeah, I was just mentioning that there's so much inflation because the meat on the bone is still going to be there no matter what happens, how many people we get or not. It's just if the more people we get, the more, they're still going to get their slice that's fair based on when they staked and how long they staked. But the inflation will continue to print every single day forever for perpetuity. So that they're buying into that. They're buying into that perpetual inflation payout. And they're buying into all the penalties that have accrued over the life of Hex that have still not been end staked or good accounted yet. So it's like, not if you're your 1 million Hex friend, he wants some of the penalties that we've all been getting for being staked. 1 million Hex staked is a pretty good T share amount. And I think in the last 2 weeks or a month alone, we had like 230 million Hex penalties. So
wow.
if he's motivated by additional revenue sources, not just the APY from inflation, he could have got his share of half of that, let's say 125 million Hex penalties that get paid to stakers, and that's as the US dollar value climbs of Hex, those penalties become more valuable. So
John, 1 million Hex staked at 1 year would give you approximately 13% APY.
Yeah.
Right. For just a year, that's approximately 130,000 Hex. Yep. Valued at a quarter is approximately $32,500. So if you've been holding liquid Hex for 1 year and you did not stake it, you just gave up $32,500, right? So it's the cost of a nice, beautiful, nice new car or nice used car. Down payment on the house, $32,500. So no need to beat a dead horse, whatever the saying is. but I figured if I could get some high power backup up here saying the same thing, John, maybe we can get my buddy to stake. So
Yeah.
not
And
that
the
he's
copy,
not
too.
staking. He's just he's a Bitcoin OG, and it broke his heart to sell his baby Bitcoin, and now Hex is by far his number one. And it's difficult to like lock up all your money, and then but what's more difficult is to realize what you missed out on when you don't,
Yeah. I'm sure he'll come around. It's just yeah, it's fine holding liquid, but just the opportunity cost of getting guaranteed interest every day, portion of the penalties, copy on PulseHex, and then potentially a third copy of our eHex when ETH 2.0 launches, goes to proof of stake. There could be a contentious fork where the miners want one thing, the ETH developers want one thing, and then they split the chain. And then we have ETH Classic Hex, we have ETH Hex, ETH Classic Hex, P Hex, and Pulse. So for the people that are thinking about emergency end staking their Ethereum Hex, I would be pretty cautious, because if you want another copy, that could be likely. And if ETH 2.0 launches in the next year or 2 years, it could be sooner than you think, So who knows when it's going to launch, but that's something that I've been thinking about, and that's made me reluctant to want to end stake and make a bet on any particular coin, Richard Hart coin. It's just too hard to take bets. I'd rather own all of them. So if any of them moon, I'll be happy, right? So I'm trying to emotionally hedge my bets so that I own at least some of all of them, and then if anything happens, I'll participate. And if it goes up and I should have done this, I should have done that, then that's all in retrospect, and I don't want to kill myself thinking about the what ifs. That's what traders do, right? They just think about the what ifs all day, and that's why they're anxious all the time and worried. But it's just like if you stake and you sacrifice, you're good. You're good. PulseHex is going to be a success, the way Richard designed it. So,
John, I want to thank you. My internet is cutting out. I don't know. Can you hear me okay? Because I'd like to close out, but I just want to make sure you can at least hear this part. So thank you everybody for joining us. John, it's been great, hanging out with you. I'd love to talk some more with you again sometime. So thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
And
it's fun.
Thank you everybody for being here. I have a great show on Monday. Brissology is going to be joining me. So great. Looking forward to hanging out with Briss for sure. Hexagon OG extraordinaire. Met him out in Vegas as well. We had a lot of fun out there. So please look forward to that. John, are you working on anything? You want to promote a project? You said what's your name over on Telegram? Golden Yacht, right?
It's
Golden
at
Yacht?
Golden Yacht. And my username is John Wick in the Telegram chats. I just have a John Wick picture. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about anything, or if they want some links some of the data that I like to look at in Hex, just message me. And then also I just want to mention, because I've had a great success with it, and a lot of the people in the Hex community that I've told have as well, is the self-directed stuff. So I know everyone doesn't like talking about taxes and stuff, but if you want to invest in crypto on a tax-free basis, whether in an IRA or a 401k, you can do that, where you self-custody the assets, you retain complete control, bookkeeping control of it. It's just called self-directed IRAs or 401ks, and there's a company that I did mine with relatively cheap, and a couple other Hexagon community members did that, and it's been great. You got into Hex early, you can stake it 10 plus years if you're young, or even if you're older, you can do it 5 years, whatever. Get the copy of Pulse Hex, do some liquidity mining on Pulse with it, and it's all inside a tax-free vehicle with tax-deferred benefits too. So if you're making trades, you don't have to worry about taxes. It's all just inside a retirement vehicle, and it can all be tax-free. So it's been a great tool that people have used. And then if your crypto journey comes to a halt and you make mad gains, you can even invest in real estate in it. You can do collectibles, you can do art, you can do anything you want. So it's a pretty cool strategy. And a lot of people have been giving me good feedback on it. So I just wanted to share that. If anyone wants to know more, just feel free to reach out.
Cool. Yeah, John, definitely. I'd love to talk more about it later. Perhaps the beginning of next year or something, when I'm more in the position to really make that have an impact for me. So thank you. If anybody's thinking, anything like that, John is the resource in the community, if you want to reach out. So John, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on today. And, thank you everybody for joining us today. So we'll see you next time. I got a few Friday shows coming up. Like I said, Brissology will be joining me on Monday. Thank you for the super chats. I just wanted to mention that again. Scotty, Hex Monkey, thank you so much for the super chats. We do, as streamers on the Discourse Syndicate, that does come directly to me, to my channel. So I do appreciate that for supporting us. Thank you. And, if you want to support any of the streamers personally as well, look for the ETH addresses in our descriptions as well. So the super chats come directly to YouTube. Those are fantastic. We really appreciate it. And some people are even sending, ETH, USDC, other things as well that come directly to us. We don't share that with YouTube. So thank you guys so much. It means a lot. It goes a long way. Thank you for spending your time today. And John, I really want to thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, we'll talk soon too. I'm around.
All right.
Hit me
Cool.
up.
All right, guys.
All right,
Thank you.
pleasure.
Yep. Take